Hello everyone, welcome. My name is Eric Coffie with ScoreContracts.com, and in today's video we're going to discuss, does the government buy what I sell? And the reason why I made this video is I received a message from one of my fellow EEO colleagues, Dave, who asked me, Eric, does the government buy my product or service? So naturally what I decided to do was make a video to go over it, because I'm sure if he has that question, so do thousands, if not tens of thousands of other people out there. So in today's video we're going to go ahead and discuss, do they buy what I sell? And then I take it one step further and I let you know who are the companies who are buying it. Who are the agencies? How much are they buying? What quantities? So that way you can make an informed decision of whether or not this is a market that you want to get into. So I'm going to close my lips, go ahead and let you watch this video. Let's get right into it. So does the government buy what I sell? First thing we're going to do is find out, obviously, what do you sell? So let's just type in what you sell. Let's say janitorial services. And then we're going to put the word NAICS after it to indicate we're looking for the NAICS code. And then as you'll see, the 6-digit NAICS code will pop up. Now, don't get too concerned about exactly what is a NAICS code today. But first thing you want to do is just whatever your service is, type in the letters NAICS after that. And then we'll go ahead and be able to give you a NAICS code associated with your business. And then what we'll do is we'll then use that code to look at both present and past opportunities in the government sector. And then you'll kind of be able to tell, hey, listen, is it worth pursuing government contracts or not? Is this something that's particularly interesting to me? So let's just look at the code we have here. I'm going to open up a text file. And then I use this just as kind of like a scratch pad for me. So just the document 56172. Okay, so that's the code for janitorial services. And then there's other NAICS codes associated with that. For now, we're just going to stick to that 561720. All right, so let's go over here. I've already got my window open for FedBizOpps. I have a window open for Federal Procurement Data System, FPDsgov. And then I also have a window open for USpendinggov as well. Again, FedBizOpps is the software we're going to use to determine what are the existing opportunities that are actually present, active, and available today. FPDS is we're going to go do our historical research and determine for the opportunities that have already been awarded to companies. And then USpendinggov is similar to FPDS, where you can look at historical data. It's just presented in a different format. So again, it'll be up to you to determine which one of these two sites that you prefer to use based on how the information is presented. So I'll show you both of them, and then you can determine what's best for your use. So now that we have our code here, 561720, you just go ahead, click on FedBizOpps or fbo.gov. And you'll see a couple options here. There's a login for buyers and engineers, vendors and citizens. And then here is a quick search. The good thing about FedBizOpps that I like is you don't actually have to log in to use the actual software. So you can any person in the world can come to this page and then jump right on and start browsing opportunities. So that's what we're going to do. Let's just go ahead and click. Where it says keyword and solicitation number, we're going to go ahead and type in our NAICS code. And then just click search. And as you see right away, there's one of 20 of 223 opportunities. Again, these are opportunities that are active and available today, right now. And these are the opportunities that have been posted over the last 90 days. So let's take a look at FedBizOpps in the screen. Essentially, it says here your opportunities list, advanced search, and archives. Okay, and we'll get into the advanced search features later on. We're just going to walk right through it. Our keyword solicitation number, which we put in the code. And then it has here the posted date, which is, if you click on it, it shows you either the last 2 days, 3 days, 7 days, 14 days, 90 days. So obviously 90 is standard. You can alter this information. And then you can actually go in and do some more detailed micro level type searches where you look at agencies, set aside, state, and type. And then here it says search by classification, which again goes back to the NAICS code search, which we've already kind of done. Let me go ahead and click return opportunities. That's one thing you want to keep in mind. These FedBizOpps websites, a lot of times if you click the back arrow on your window browser, it'll take you to a page that doesn't generate. It wasn't designed to be interactive with your web browser. So make sure you use the back buttons inside the actual website itself. Okay, so we're back to the original screen, 223 opportunities. This particular column says the opportunity, it gives you a description, it gives the actual solicitation number, and it tells you what actual area it falls under, which is utilities and housekeeping. The middle column tells you the agency and location. Then here, the third column tells you whether it's been awarded, whether it's synopsis solicitation, and then whether or not it's set aside. And then posted on is pretty self-explanatory. Today a post was last made to the site. Let's go ahead and click on the first one. This says award, which means it actually was awarded. So that changed. Let's click on that. And let's just walk right through it. Again, this is Coffie CBOC Janitorial Services, which again, this is the name that was assigned by the contracting officer, contract agent. Here's your solicitation number. Here's the agency. It was Department of Veteran Affairs. This is where it was at, the office, which is Great Lakes Healthcare System. And then the location, again, it goes with information. Here's your solicitation number. It was awarded. This was the date it was awarded. Here's the contract number. Here's the $166,000, the amount, the DUNS number for the actual person that the company that was awarded to. So we can do some research and find out a little bit about that company. Here's the contractor's name, Slaughters Commercial Services, and they're based out of University of Park, Illinois. And then essentially this is the last time any changes or updates were made. This shows March the 6th. Well, let's start at the left. We'll go left to right like people read. Complete view. So here you go. The original synopsis was posted on January 27th. Then the solicitation was released on the 27th as well. And then there was a change made on the 31st, another change made on the 1st, and award on March the 7th. Here are the attachments and the files associated with this particular procurement. I'm not going to go into the details of all of this in this particular video. The only reason why is because what we want to do is just find out what opportunities are available for your industry, right? So the purpose of this video is to discuss how do we determine if the government buys what I sell. We'll create another video that goes into the specifics of how to read and understand FedBizOpps. But for all intents and purposes today, we're just going to go through and see if there's any opportunities available for what we do. We know that there are. I'm going to back out of this since it's already click return opportunities. Since it's already been awarded, there's really no sense in walking through this one as an example. Let's go to the next one. Janitorial requirement, combined synopsis solicitation. That's excellent. This is given by the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers, Kansas City District. Wow. Actually, I just recently worked for them. I'd be interested in if this is in Wichita, Kansas, where I work. But again, the government's all over the world, so there's no telling. I'm going to scroll down just because I'm out of curiosity. So this is in Kansas City, Missouri. So no, I did not work at this particular location. But again, like I said, the government's got installations all over the world. All over the country. So let's just go through and read briefly. This is posted March the 6th. Response date April the 5th. Now, so briefly, you can see right there that it was posted yesterday, which is Monday, and then they're expecting a response by April the 5th. So it gives you about a month to put together your proposal, your team, organize yourself, and then to pursue this opportunity. This is a request for proposals. Excellent. The solicitation, the provisional clause are in for Federal Acquisition Circular. It gives you some reference points. It's up to 3 IDIQ contracts within the region of Kansas and Iowa and Missouri. Wow, this is amazing. And for those who don't know, IDIQ stands for Definite Delivery, Definite Quantity. We're going to definitely pull this one up because this is how you go from 0 to $50 million is through IDIQs. And those are the type of contract vehicles, but we'll talk about it. But these things, essentially what they are multiple year contracts with really high dollar ceiling amount caps. So this could be up to 5 years and $50 million. But we'll click on it and we'll see. Then they've got SATOX, which is similar type of contract, which is a multi-year contract vehicle. However, this goes to one firm. IDIQs, you can have a pool of firms in there, and then essentially it's like a blanket purchase order where they have this $50 million budget and they'll just start like putting out contracts against it until they spend all the money or they exceed the 5-year process. Proposal officer submitted to Dominique Howard by this date. See the instructions and conditions. Always, Section L will be your instructions and conditions on every particular proposal like this. Offers good for 90 days. Here's your officers, some disclaimers. So let's pull this thing open and look at it. This is really interesting. Again, if you are asking yourself, hey, does the government buy what I sell? And you sell janitorial services, right here, just off the cuff, we just literally pulled your NAICS code up, went to FedBizOpps, FBO. Second solicitation was an IDIQ award. And wait till you see the dollar thresholds. This is why I like federal contracting versus local contracting or actually even private sector work, just because the dollar amounts are so great and they allow you to create joint ventures and teaming partners to be able to tackle this type of work. So let's go in and look at this. Okay, this talks about sam.gov. And if you're not already registered in SAM, definitely you have to, before you can even do any of this stuff, you have to get registered in SAM. But again, that's for later instructions. Right now, we're just trying to find out what types of opportunities exist and what they look like. So here we go. These are your CLIN numbers, and a CLIN number is the way that the government uses to identify line item pricing for their purchases. So when you see a CLIN line item in a solicitation, that is where like essentially the dollar amount goes. So the CLIN number, on some contracts you can have 20 CLINs, 30 CLINs, and it's just basically for that particular scope, what is the dollar amount that's associated with that scope. Here it says Territory 1 base contract capacity not to exceed 1.5 million. Territory 2 base contract not to exceed 2.5 million. Territory 3 not to exceed $1 million. So there you have it. You can see right away. I mean, this is, you're looking at a threshold somewhere in the neighborhood of $5 million, which for janitorial services is phenomenal. Now, it says here that the Territory 1 is 100% women-owned business set aside. Wow. So when people talk about their government's not giving opportunities to groups that are discriminated against or have been predisposed to lower wages and particularly not equal treatment, here it is showing right now, they've set aside this for women, they've set aside this for service-disabled veterans, and then Territory 3 is for small business. They give you here basically the CLIN, they tell you estimated square feet, and then they'll tell you, and essentially you're going to plug in the amounts associated with that, right? Dollar per square feet. So Territory 1, based on contract, it's 100% set aside to women-owned small businesses. The following information provided is not part of the contract. Location will be identified per task order. By the way, since we're on this, let me just go back up here. Women-owned business, small business set aside is the only set aside that you can actually get registered to be a women-owned business, and you could start actually getting contracts via that set aside. All of the other have requirements like minimum 2-year requirements, and the process are a lot more stringent for service disabled, for 8A, and for hub zone. Women, essentially, if you meet the criteria, it's a pretty straightforward process. And again, you don't have that 2-year window that's required in terms of business history to go into the set-aside program. So essentially, you could identify this opportunity today, go back, set your business up, register to become a women-owned business, and then be eligible to participate in this particular solicitation. Just a word to the wise. All right, so goes through the Kansas City Metro. It talks about the areas, the services. Here, contract manpower reporting. So that's just reporting labor, hours, people, personnel. Here is St. Louis and Southern Missouri, the different counties. Tells you general scope of work. There's guidelines for 3,000 square feet or less, and then 3,000 square feet or more. There's 2 separate guidelines for that. All right, notice proceed, period of service. The contract award, period of 5 years and 1 6-month extension option. So again, like I told you before, typically most of the IDIQs and SATOCs are 5-year periods. That's just the standard. All right, here's your insurance requirements, your pre-conferencing. Here, very important, how do you invoice? These are all of your clauses. Most of the FAR clauses you can pull up. A lot of standard stuff. So as you see, this is an extremely lucrative opportunity here. I mean, I would, if I was in a janitorial services industry, I mean, I'd be all over this thing right away because, I mean, this is essentially once you qualify for this IDIQ, then you have a potential 5 years of work coming down your pipeline. That's solicitation. We're going to close that. It's very thorough, very well put together. And if you have any questions, they'll tell you this is the person to reach out to. Dominic Howard, Contracting Specialist. That's her email address. And then within the solicitation, there's some other information. So this is great. Now, what you can do, and you can't do this unless you're logged in, is you can click on Watch This Opportunity and then add me to interested vendors. And then you will be able to get, if there's any changes or if there's any additional information that gets put on here, any amendments or addendums, then they will send you an email letting you know that if you are either watching or add to interested vendors. However, you can't do that unless you are logged in as a vendor. And registering for a vendor is a pretty straightforward process. But again, for the purpose of what we're doing today, we just want to look at some opportunities. So that's the second opportunity. Let's go here, Department of Agriculture. Let me back out. Let's just read it briefly. Again, janitorial services, National Forest, Department of Agriculture, solicitation, total small business. All right, pre-solicitation notice only. That means that they're giving you a heads up that there's a contract or a solicitation coming down a pipeline, and they want you to review this information so that you can already start figuring out the best approach to tackle this opportunity. So pre-solicitations are excellent because it gives you a chance to start working on putting together your team and people and looking at how you're going to structure the package so that you could become the most qualified, eligible firm to participate in this particular solicitation when it does come out. So it says here it will be issued on about February the 1st, 2017. That date's already passed. So they've already changed it. The notice has been changed to solicitation. It is now a solicitation. So obviously we approach this pretty late in the process, but let's take a look and see what it is. Amendment 1 extends the due date to Wednesday, March the 8th. Now, so on this one, the due date is March the 8th. So we're way behind the 8 ball on this. Let's pull it up. Let's see what we have. Again, another one of these. Look, janitorial services, 4 office base year plus 4 option year. Again, that's potentially 5 years if you do well, right? Here you go. Monthly services, including both daily, 2 times a week, and weekly services performed. 12 months, the units, tells unit price and then the amount. Same quarterly services, semi-annual services. Here's your total base year. Here's your optional year 1. Same thing, optional year 2, 3, and optional year 4. It is critical that your system support management account information is current, made correctly, made through the USD financial system. If you don't have a SAM record in order to be eligible for award, you must set up a company profile in SAM. This is a very easy process. Setting up your SAM and your DUNS number is very straightforward. I already have some videos that outline how to do that. If you have any questions, you can always send me an email over scorecontracts.com and I'll walk you through that process. But it's really straightforward. I mean, you can watch my 3-minute video and figure out how to do it. Let me tell you why they put this in here. So many companies, so many firms actually attempt to pursue these opportunities. They're registered in SAM, but their information is outdated. So you receive the notice from SAM. They send an email saying, hey, we need you to update your records. Your SAM record is not updated in the system. So make sure, please, before you try and pursue any of these opportunities, you go back and you update your SAM record. And then taking a step back, SAM is the portal, it's the government portal that's used by all agencies in order to award contracts. So before you can do any of this stuff, you got to be registered in SAM. But again, our focus is on seeing whether there's opportunities existing under janitorial services. And as we see, they look plentiful. So this one, this is in place of performance is in Washington. And I want you to understand this also. When you look at the contracting office address, this is not necessarily the same address where the place of performance is. For example, here in Miami, our Office of Army Corps of Engineers is based out of Alabama, but the actual place of performance could be somewhere in Florida. So it's a little bit confusing, but just don't look at this contracting office address and think, oh, it's going to be here in Washington. So for example, this is Olympia, Washington, but you're performing the work in Forks, Washington. I don't know the distance, but I'm sure they're not around the corner from each other. So the government system is a little convoluted in a sense that where the people are writing the contracts and where they're actually doing the work, it's totally different places. Again, we've had 223 opportunities here. Some of them are just starting, some of them are in the middle, some of them are already ending. There are different times. But I would say, based on what I'm seeing here, that there's a constant, ongoing slew of janitorial service contracts. So I would say if my business was janitorial services, I'd have no doubt that the government has thousands and thousands and thousands of solicitations every year coming out. All right, here's a request for quotation. This is in Rock Island, Illinois. Please return to U.S. Army Corps Troy Robbins. They highlight what they want you to fill out, give you their instructions, tells you the quantity they're looking for in terms of unit days. Interesting. This is for, it says park custodian. So this is a little bit different. So here, it looks like you'll be supplying them with a custodian to perform the services. Technical capability statement. You should have this already written out. This essentially is exactly what it says. Your capability, your experience, your crew, your teams, equipment, all of your similar projects and stuff. This is how they're going to determine whether or not you have the ability to deliver on this contract. Past performance questionnaire, same thing. You should already have some references from previous jobs. And those references, likely, they would prefer that they are based on federal projects, not private sector work. But if that's all you have, then that's all you can provide. So that's a little bit different than what we looked at the previous two solicitations. And this one tells you where they are. Response date 21st. So essentially you have time to put this one together. It's not that complicated, so you can put it together. So let's see, combined synopsis of solicitation. I want to skip down. All right, we've seen another one awarded. Sources sought, for those of you who don't know, is where the contracting officer or agent is trying to determine the best way to set this aside for a small business. So what they do is they put together what's called a sources sought opportunity. They give you a brief description of what they want to do and what it is about. You see here, again, it's a base year before 1 year opt, 5-year contract potential, depending upon your performance. And then what they want to see is how many women-owned businesses, service-disabled veterans, 8A, small businesses respond that have the capabilities of performing this. Okay, so in the sources sought opportunity, you put together a LOI or letter of an interest outlining essentially who you are, your technical capabilities, and your ability to be able to perform this job, and to explain basically why you are qualified to participate. And then you want to put down any certifications that you have. So here again, if you're a small business, which most people that are watching this are small businesses, but if you have anything like 8A or HubZone, or if you are women-owned, or if you're a service-disabled veteran-owned, if you're any of these, then essentially the government, once they decide to go with a solicitation, based on the responses that they receive, they'll determine how this gets set aside, whether it goes to the HubZone, whether it goes to the 8A, or whether it goes to the women-owned small business. I encourage people to respond to sources sought for their particular scope of work and their services to government. And this is going to be in my other FBO training videos. But the reason why I encourage people to respond to these, this is how you start to get no bid work. Okay, this is how you start. The contracting officers, they learn about your company, your firm, and once you build a rapport with them, then some of this stuff will never even hit FBO. Then they'll start calling you directly saying, hey, we have this potential contract coming up. Can you give us a price? All right. And that's where the magic of working with the federal government and having a small business certification, that's where it starts to take place. The FBO is nice to look at opportunities that exist, but you're still bidding against a whole bunch of people. And so you're still in a larger pool. Again, having one of these certifications makes you a big fish in a smaller pool. So it creates more opportunities and more chances for you to win contracts. However, where the magic really is in, where they start actually awarding you directly. So it's the no bid work. And we'll talk about that. And I know what you're saying. Probably say, hey, we keep saying we're going to talk about this, we're going to talk about that. But remember, for most of the people watching this video, they just want to know how to determine whether or not the government buys what they sell. So that's the gist of what we're going over. So you see here, again, there's a couple more sources. Here's a service disabled veteran, seller side, total small business, sources side, total small business. So, they have contracts all over the place. I'm looking at opportunities here, Kansas, Rock Island, Rocky Mountain, Gulf Coast. So, there's opportunities everywhere. I would not get caught up in one worry about whether or not they're in my specific backyard. But with between 223 opportunities, it shows you that there's opportunities here. Now, some people say, well, I live in Florida. I've never done any work outside of Florida. So let's just click. All right, this is for Florida, 3,000 opportunities, but I didn't actually put in the code. So let's go back to Florida. And then you can actually do the same thing here. You can go here and put in the code here actually as well. So what was our code? 56, janitorial, 56172. So let's leave Florida and then janitorial services. Let's just search and see what we get. All right, 18 opportunities. There you are. So if you're in Florida, you're wondering about janitorial services, here you are. Right away, there's 18 opportunities. HubZone, small business, service disabled veteran, small business, justification and approval, which means that It was a direct award, service disabled, source aside, service disabled. And what you'll find typically, if they're service disabled right away, normally those opportunities are all veteran administration facilities, because the veteran administration facilities tend to go with service disabled veterans. If there are any eligible service disabled veterans, that's the way they're gonna drive all their opportunities. All right, so if right here in Florida, there's 18 opportunities right away. Now, I will tell you this: if you want to pursue federal contracts, you cannot be restricted to a particular area, because unless you have a service like a construction or a specific specialty like electrical or something like that, it's going to be very difficult to maximize the benefits of working for the federal government if you restrict yourself to one particular area. Just a word to the wise. All right, so we went through FedBizOpps and we've determined, there's 223 opportunities in our particular market. Now, that's great. It's geared towards small businesses, which I'm sure everyone listening to it is a small business. In fact, let's go through and let me just tell you what I mean, because people say, well, what do you mean small businesses? All right, let's look at, all right, so your next code again, 561720. All right. And you go, well, Eric, how do I know if I'm a small business? So let's look at what they call size standards. So we're going to pull up the size standards table. This is pretty cool. And the reason why I want you to see this, because again, maybe someone's saying, hey, look, my company does 5 million a year, 2 million a year, 3 million a year, whatever the case may be. How do I know if I'm a small business? The way that you learn if you're a small business is you pull up what's called the size standards table, and you can go to my website and find it on scorecontracts.com. We have a size standards table there. SBA also has one. All right, janitorial services. So here's my NAICS code. This is what it is. And this is $18 million. So what does that mean? Size standards in the millions of dollars. So again, if you're a janitorial company, what that means is over a 3-year window, your average revenue cannot exceed 18 million. Let's give an example. If your company does 12 million, and then they do 23 million, and then you have a not so productive year, you do 8 million. If you add up those three numbers, 12 plus 23 plus 8, that gives you 43 divided by 3. That gives you $14 million a year. You're still eligible. You are not considered a small business because it is the average over a 3-year window. So you take up your last 3 years of revenue, add them together, and divide it by 3, and then you'll get your average. And that's how you determine whether or not, if your average exceeds that 18, then you're no longer a small business. But if your 3-year average falls below the 18, then you're still considered a small business. And that works the same for every industry. Now, certain industries, the size standards are based on number of employees, okay? And those are typically in manufacturing. So if you manufacture something, then the size standard is based on number of employees, but it's the same formula, right? So it's your 3-year average based on the number of employees. In construction, those numbers get as high as like 38 million. Like I said, on specialty services, the dollar thresholds are a little bit smaller. But if your janitorial service business is doing 18 million a year for the last 3 years, I think it goes to say that you're not a small business. But at the same time, that dollar number is so high that it puts 99% of us in the category of small business, because we don't reach that. We don't reach that even in construction. If you look at the top 10 contractors, I think the bottom guy is doing 30 million a year. So, this is a high number. It's a high mark. So going back, so you're a small business. Now that we know, okay, FedBizOpps, hey, there's a ton of opportunities available for my NAICS code. Let's go back. Let's look at who's actually getting this stuff. Who's doing this kind of work? Who are your competition, or who are your potential partners? So let's go to, we're at FPDsgov, and I just literally typed in NAICS code 561720, and I click enter. What pops up on the left-hand side, you'll see the departments that are issuing out those solicitations. Department of Defense, GSA, Department of Agriculture, Department of Interior, Homeland Security, Veterans Affairs, Department of State, Department of Transportation. And then you'll see the top agency names. And then you'll see the top vendors. And look here, miscellaneous foreign contractors, miscellaneous foreign awardees, clean country, clean management, Sukum educational programs. So these are the top 10 vendors that are receiving janitorial contracts in our United States government. Pretty cool, huh? Now let's look in the middle, the contract actions. So here you go. This was assigned in 2001. This is Clean Metro. They did janitorial services. The vendor name is CMI Management, PBM Services. It talks about, here's a contract that these people received, $1 million, Office of Acquisition and Grants, carpet laying and cleaning. Again, $54,000, $220,000. This stuff, if you look at it off the bat, obviously you know that the government's cleaning buildings. You say, Eric, what do I do with this information? How is this helpful to me? So let's talk about how this information is helpful. What I like to do is I like to build what's called a target market list. And I'll go through, and by the way, this says 1 through 30 of 220,552 solicitations as of the time that we made this inquiry a minute and a half ago. So what I like to do for people is I say, look, this is a whole bunch of information. How do you make it useful? So what I do is I go over here to top 10 contract agency names. I click on one, Department of the Army. Okay, it narrows it down to only 73,000 particular requests. But what it does is it gives me a list of the companies who are doing all the work. So you have here the top 10 vendors that are getting all this work. And what I like to do is create a list of these vendors, because these particular vendors are, they're massive, right? So they're monster entities. They are looking for companies like yours to subcontract out the work for in specific markets and areas. So what I would do is I build my target market list based on these vendors. So I open up my handy dandy Excel spreadsheet and I put in the vendors' names. Let's look at my workbooks. And what I'll do is I'll start typing in what the department is, who the vendor is, and just put their name down. And then there's other websites that we can go to determine actually they get the vendor's contact information, and then we can actually look at what their bids list are and what the contracts they've won, and then start actually soliciting them for work. Okay, and that's a really effective strategy for getting into the market and building up your history and your reputation prior to being awarded any type of small business certification. So that's a very effective strategy that I've found I use to actually start getting contracts in the government space. So here you go. So right now we are in this janitorial code, and then a contracting agency is Department of the Army. So I just go ahead and literally type in Department of Army. And then I get my group, and then we go back. I say, okay, now let's look at public building services. Click on public building services. Highlight them. Get my group. And then I go back. Let's go back and do it again. Maybe. So right away, I mean, here we are. We already have 30 vendors that are receiving the bulk of the government work for this particular agency. And we already know that they're not self-performing all these tasks. So they're essentially behemoth companies. They know how to put together the proposals. They have all the financial capabilities and wherewithal to manage and oversee these large multi-year contracts. And so for someone who's coming in, maybe you're doing $20,000 a year or $50,000 a year. For someone that's coming in, you know, the opportunity to double your revenue and say, instead of doing $50,000 a year, to win a $50,000 contract, if that's enticing for you, this is the approach that I would take. I literally build my list of these companies. And as you can see, I mean, this is taking us, a few minutes to do? Just going to go ahead and plug them all in. Veterans Affairs, I'm going to skip them. Only because I know that they like to award. I'll add them in there. Because now we're looking at subcontract opportunities. So I'll add them in there. This is State Department. I'll add them in because, you know what? Truthfully, even though these large firms are winning these contracts, they still subcontract out to smaller entities to actually perform the work. So for that reason, we'll go ahead and add them in. FAA. And last but not least, NOAA. All right, so there we have it. Look, I mean, right off the bat, we built a target market list of 100 firms that are the top in these respective departments. And these departments are the top firms that award the type of contracts that we are interested in, right? So for janitorial services, this is your top 100 companies in the United States that have been awarded contracts historically. And then you can see also the numbers. So for NOAA, Associated Services was awarded 102 contracts, Clean Country 98, 63, 61, 52, 47, 47, and you can see respectively. Same thing here, FAA, they were awarded 132 contracts. DLA, SNS Forest Products was awarded 709 contracts. Forest Product Distributors, 677. And so you could, again, respectively, look at this company. Miscellaneous Foreign Awardees was awarded 2,654 contracts. Now, I'm going to say this. I know Department of State typically are contracts that are outside of the continental U.S., so maybe this wouldn't be interest you unless you were watching from Canada or Europe this video. Then if you are based in Canada or Europe or somewhere outside of the United States, then I would focus primarily on this group of 10 because these entities, I know the Department of State is the government sector that puts out all the solicitations for what's called OCONUS work or outside the continental United States. So if I was based in, let's say, Honduras or South America, then I would be looking at Department of State and talking to this particular entities to solicit work from. Air Force, Navy, Public Building Services, Department, Army. So really quickly, we've identified thousands of particular contracts historically that were awarded for janitorial services. Now, if that doesn't convince you that the government buys what you sell, I mean, I don't really know what else to convince you. We looked at FBO and we looked at some of the opportunities that were 1 year and up to 5 years and from tens of thousands up to what that was. I think that was $5 million, that other opportunity. Now, I'm just saying, going back to determining, again, the purpose of the video is, does the government buy what I sell and how much of it and who's buying it? This is identifying who are the people that the government are awarding these contracts to. These are the incumbents. But I wouldn't consider them competition. I would consider them allies in a sense because they are always looking for small firms to either solicit JV teams and partnerships from and or to award, they're looking for good subcontract partnerships. And I'll tell you that a good subcontract relationship is worth its weight in gold because these companies are also being awarded their future contracts based on performance, and a bad subcontractor could, affect their ratings. So they're looking for good firms like you guys who want to go out there and, be paid, compensated fairly for the services that you provide. At the same time, treated, fairly as well. So they're looking for those type of relationships. I mean, I could promise you this. Every one of these companies, they have good companies that work for them and bad companies. So if your firm delivers a quality product and service, they want you. They want you like desperately. They're wanting you bad. So let's go over here now to USspendinggov contracts. All right, let's go here. Let's put in our favorite code. Let's see what it tells me. All right, here we go. So we put in your next code. There was 149,000 transactions for that code. The prime recipients received, I want you guys to see this number. This is $13,149,105,175. The total subaward transaction amount was average $874,000. If you are curious, do they buy what I sell, and you're in janitorial services, I think this number should probably, ring some bells. They've spent $13 billion in contracts. Now, we could change some filters. Let's go back, and that's obviously that goes back to 2008. So let's say, hey man, That's cool. What did they spend in 2016? 2016, the government did 14,000 contracts. They spent $1.5 billion on janitorial services. How's that? And here's the companies that it went to. Now you see that, yes, you've determined there are opportunities for me and my particular NAICS code in this market. Real easy to read summary of that based on 2016 results. And we can do the same thing for 2015, 2014. And again, you can narrow this thing down as much as you like, right? So here's your codes. If you want to look at a particular state, if you want to look at the DUNS number of the entity, let's say Florida. All right, let's go to Florida. And I live in Florida, so I'm a little biased. So in Florida alone, they spent $128 million in janitorial services contract. Here are the people that received it. Here are the companies. Again, you can do the same thing we did before. You can actually, the cool thing is you can download these results into, that's your code, janitorial contracts, 2016, Florida. 467 contracts. Let's click generate file. Let's click here. Downloads us a nice little easy zip file. And there you are. I mean, the government did all the work for you, right? So they essentially took all the data they had and put it into an Excel spreadsheet for you. For a lot of people, this looks like gibberish. But I mean, once you start pulling it out, you can see the departments, the agencies, who they were, the contracts, the thresholds, the entities. So here are the people, the entities. And now you can actually, you can do some data mining if you like. Go through this and basically say, hey, okay, who are the people in my backyard that are doing this stuff? Who do I need to call? Who do I need to solicit to? Who do I need to get on their bidders list, their subcontractors list? You can start doing some data mining based on this information. There's the phone numbers. There's the DUNS numbers. I mean, there's everything. That's the beauty of the government. I mean, all this information is public information. So you don't have to worry about, it's not like when you've been in the private sector, you have no idea who was awarded what, how much, when, who, you know. No, everything here is public information. I mean, right here, very easily, you have the phone numbers and names of the people that work at these companies that you want to do business with. Oh, here, this is, I want to show you something. This is interesting. This goes back to what I talked about before, where I said, don't look at this company. See where it says JV LLC? So again, like I said before, these companies are looking for partners to create joint ventures and or teaming arrangements so that they can go after much larger scale contracts. We use your skill set, your qualifications, and along with another company's qualifications to make a larger entity to become eligible for some of these multi-year contract awards like IDIQs and MATOCs. So here's all the information here based on that report generated. So you have two reports. You've got one from FPDS, and then you have another one from USpendinggov. And really, so going back, I mean, that's essentially how you determine whether or not the government buys what you sell. You go through, like we did, find your NAICS code, look at the opportunities, go find your NAICS code, plug it into FBO, FPDS, or USpendinggov, and then it'll populate and tell you what the opportunities are. So that's it. Hello everyone, welcome back. Thanks for watching that video on how to determine whether or not the government buys what you sell. I hope that you learn how to find whatever it is that your product or service it is, find out the market, find out who's buying it, and then make a decision as to whether you want to proceed in this lucrative marketplace. If you decide that it's something that you want to do, the next step is to get your DUNS number and register at sam.gov. And if this sounds like a foreign language, don't worry, I've got videos already on my YouTube channel that discuss these items in particular. So subscribe to my channel, follow me on any of my social media platforms. I hope you enjoy. We're going to see you on the other side. Thanks.